There's a sentiment which tends to pop up around the abscesses of the Kingdom Hearts fandom. If you've been around the block a few times, you've probably heard it at least once or twice. That the Disney worlds don't matter. Everything important to the story and the experience surrounds the original worlds and the original characters. While this isn't the time for a full-on discussion of that, I do want you to keep it in mind as we head off on our next venture. We've fallen into quite a comfy routine, haven't we? Select a world, get embroiled in some heartless hijinks, thwart the big baddie, push Kairi and the king to the back burner again, and repeat. The only level that doesn't quite fit that mold is Olympus, and that's only because Hades favors shady dealings to honest boss fights. It's all well and good to follow a formula, but I'd be hard-pressed to pinpoint something that makes a story feel more video gamey, or worse, like a bad children's TV show. Adventures are built on the unexpected, low points to balance out the highs, and even though I've never heard anyone call our next world their favorite, the role it fills in the story is definitely a highlight for me. But for the moment, the routine is still very much alive. We've got two worlds to pick from. This time, the lower path advertises the lower battle level, but honestly, ignore that for now. If you take the lower path, the Death Guy's blueprint will be easier to nab, and you can grab a Lamia, too. I like these snaky gals. The only new blueprint on the top path is gonna be Sandy, the second one we found based on the Magus Sisters. Just like Cindy, the original design is based on her encounter in Final Fantasy IV, while the Final Mix one took inspiration from her FF10 design. No matter which route you choose, a little over halfway through, your journey will be disrupted by a whale of a whale. In 1940, Disney's Pinocchio struck terror into the hearts and minds of children the world over, using all their animation and sound design expertise to bring Monstro to life. Yeah, he's just a big bugger-all sperm whale, but in terms of 2D animation, nothing had ever quite captured this sense of size before. The destructive rage, as inevitable as the tide and those furious eyes. This was before we worried about things like scarring kids for life, cause odds were an especially bad winter or war would take him out before long, but honestly, depictions of Monstro's inspiration in Carlo Collodi's original novel might be even worse. For all that, I think it's a shame this sequence doesn't really capture it. The scoped out camera fails to leave anything about his model to the imagination, there's no unfathomably large rest of him hanging out below the waves, and the fact that the Gummi ship is just sitting there, even as a kid, this felt more like an inconvenience than any kind of urgent danger, and that sucks, cause everything else about this is phenomenal. It's the first time we see that there are things other than us and the Heartless, bigger than us, creatures from destroyed worlds strong enough to survive interspace on their own. Jiminy's world was the first one we heard about getting swallowed by darkness. We've been finding its scattered denizens one by one throughout our journey, but you'd have never assumed we'd encounter Monstro, big chillin' out here in the lanes between. Space whales have been a popular image in media since the 1960s. There's something in the collective consciousness that feels like it makes sense. Add to that the sort of choral aesthetic a lot of the obstacles on the Gummi routes have, and you're not thrown like this was outside the realm of something you could have expected. It feels more like a logical consequence of what we've learned so far, and of course he would eat us. That kind of imagery stretches back to biblical times. We also get a neat little character moment in the midst of all that. Donald tells Sora to get them out of there, which means he did finally let Sora drive. Hopefully the fact he got them all devoured doesn't take away his piloting privileges. Monstro is arguably the most narratively driven Disney world in this game, and it begins by hitting us hard with a flashback. This sort of device is such a natural fit for Kingdom Hearts storytelling that it feels strange we haven't encountered it yet. An indeterminate amount of years before the events of this game, Riku and Sora were palling around Destiny Islands. Now I enjoy the connective tissue here already. Pinocchio's plan to use a raft to escape Monstro's mouth mirrors that of Riku's plan. The trigger for this flashback, though, seems to be the monster itself. Sora's reminded of the confidence he felt, even at such a young age, of taking on something bigger than him. At least, as long as he could do it alongside Riku. What's especially interesting is that this plays off of a moment from one of our first cutscenes. Based on their interest in the new girl who just moved in with the mayor, we know that this is before they met Kairi. Kairi, who would supposedly have been Riku's inspiration for wanting to leave Destiny Islands, and yet here he is, pitching that idea before he even knows her name. Sora's eye roll back then wasn't just because Riku's a smooth talker, but because he was lying. And that makes for a really strong character moment for Sora in retrospect, that he kept his mouth shut there despite his competitive spirit doubtlessly urging him to do otherwise. Was he resigned to the idea that Riku and Kairi just had better chemistry, or mature enough to understand contradicting Riku wouldn't have won him any points with either of them? Either way, that was just the beginning. It's clear we're about to get into the weeds with this world.
Oh, you know, I think that big old whale Monstro just swallowed us. And for today's weather, expect showers. Oh, heavy showers.
Ow! Who's there? It's me!
Now, despite the destruction of Pinocchio's home, we're still following the movie's plot with surprising consistency. The main cast gets separated, Pinocchio gets up to some mischief without Jiminy's guidance, Geppetto gets whaled looking for him, Pinocchio gets whaled right back looking for him. We even get to continue the running gag of everyone doing a double take anytime Pinocchio pops up.
Who's there?
It's me!
Oh, it's me. Huh? A little wooden boy. Now who a wooden boy?
Hi, Billy Dee! I'm acting like for me.
Huh?
Father!
Don't bother me now, Pinocchio. Pinocchio.
Oh, it's just Pinocchio! Pinocchio!
Pinocchio? Pinocchio, where you going? Pinocchio! Come on, everybody, after him, quick!
Welcome to Monstro's Mouth, one of the more iconic rooms in this game, again with plenty of details derived straight from the movie, including this infuriatingly anatomy-defying spine and rib cage on the roof, and of course Geppetto's boat.
What have you got there, Pinocchio?
With this, we can get out of here, Father. It's true. So, how did you end up here, Pinocchio?
Oh my, so the whale swallowed all of you too? My goodness.
Yeah, looks like it.
My name is Geppetto. I'm Pinocchio's father. When we got separated, I traveled all over looking for him. Thank goodness we're together again. So, you seem to know Pinocchio quite well. I hope he was a good boy in my absence. Right, Pinocchio? Pinocchio!
After that cutscene, we can explore this whole place freely, checking out the gummy block Pinocchio found, Cleo, the best character from the movie, but unfortunately, no sign of Figaro. Geppetto has a surprising amount of dialogue to dig through, including mentions of green monsters which lure wanderers deeper into Monstro, which is worth keeping in mind. He also expresses his interest in the gummy block Pinocchio found, which is a cute bit of continuity for later. Among the wooden wreckage are a plethora of chests. With just the right jump, it's possible to reach this scan gummy, but everything else is out of reach. Only in the original Japanese version, there's a wooden box sitting on one of these platforms. It serves no clear purpose, but it does interact with the water in some funny ways. If we push it into the water, it sinks rather unnaturally. While it's sitting out over top of the water, we can see that Sora's head is just as mighty as his feet. And if we let it push us under the surface, it will shatter by the will of the gods. Our last point of interest is this save point, which fully enables us to leave. It doesn't feel like it should, but apparently Monstro's not all that stubborn. From there, we could freely venture to either of those other two worlds. Monstro himself's also a bit of a prankster. If you set out for him, there's a good chance he just won't show up, and if you set out for either world on either side of him, he may decide to interrupt the journey again. He will always be there for you if you warp to him, as strange as it looks, and although we have options, it's clear the game intends for us to tackle this now. So, let's. Monstro's intestines fall alongside the Cave of Wonders as one of the only locations in Kingdom Hearts to feel like a dungeon. But while the cave felt like a maze, every room connected to almost every other room. As long as you didn't turn backwards, success was almost inevitable. Not so here. In fact, this place is an infamous run-ender for generations of Kingdom Hearts newcomers. I would love, nay, luxuriate in the chance to make a map of this place, but it's just not gonna happen. Monstro's tummy consists of 6 chambers, yeah, they really like that word, all of which have a glut of ins and outs which connect with absolutely no sense of logic or cohesion. This is sort of like Kingdom Hearts' take on the Lost Woods. Some doors you come in through drop you into the chamber, leaving no route back. Ironically, even if you could reach them, these high entryways spit you directly back out, with the befuddling exception of this one in the first room. It still sends you back into the same chamber, but through a different door. What happened there? These rooms are layered, so you can't navigate based on which rooms you've already been to, since there are high and low sections, often inaccessible from each other. If not, you'll wind up falling down to a past area during the fights with all these airborne Heartless, disorienting you further. But before we can really dive into any of that...
What are you doing? Come on, let's go back.
You know, Geppetto's awfully worried about you.
Pinocchio, stop fooling around. This is no time for games.
But Sora, I thought you liked games.
Ooh, the way the music stops, that was nasty.
Or are you too cool to play them now that you have the Keyblade?
Riku? What are you doing here?
Just playing with Pinocchio.
You know what I mean. What about Kairi? Did you find her?
Maybe. Catch us, and maybe I'll tell you what I know.
Come on!
There's a clear edge to this encounter. Worth noting, Sora doesn't know what went down at the end of Agrabah, but somehow Jiminy seems to? Either way, you can tell just by the delivery, this is no happy reunion. Riku's acting antagonistic, and despite how far we've come, Sora feels like the same little kids on Destiny Islands again. Always second place. Well, the game's afoot. Time to navigate these twisty testins. In spite of everything designed to confound you, there are a few tricks to navigating this labyrinth. Geppetto's warning about green creatures plainly refers to the green requiems. In fact, they are almost exclusively found spawning by the entrances that lead you along the critical path. If you see one appear by a door, you know that's the right way. What's more, as an addition made in Final Mix, the correct path always pulsates with green light, whereas the others will be more blue and purple. In the grand scheme of things, the path isn't that complicated. Take a left in the first chamber, and then in every subsequent bower, the correct path will be, in order, the only one available, the closest one, the only one available, the closest one, and the closest one again. The camera almost always points you in the right direction, too. Keep all that in mind, and the only real obstacles are going to be the Heartless. To wit, the Monstro Variety Shadows get the biggest leap in stats between worlds they will ever have, from 21 to 36 HP, which makes them oddly tanky. New to us are Search Ghosts, one of the oddest Heartless in this game, with a design I've always found especially disturbing. The dangling eyeball, the exposed ribcage, and more to the point, the inapposite nature of their appearance in this environment. We've seen Heartless with a bent for camouflage. They've taken on several forms that have strayed pretty far from what we might expect a primal manifestation of darkness to take, but these guys almost feel more like ghosts than Heartless, like the wayward souls of sailors who have met their end in Monstro's gullet. They have a number of peculiar behaviors too. They're generally too slow to pose much of a threat, but if left to their own devices, they have an HP draining attack that can fully heal them, and despite the floopy sound design and animations, they pack a surprising punch. If they go to steal some HP, they need to hover around with these purple will-o-wisps for like 2 hours before they actually absorb them, and if you strike them during this period, they'll drop way more HP than they stole. You can also get this HP bonus at any time by hitting them with gravity. The gimmick they're named after is this searchlight they emit, which changes from yellow to red when they spot you. Huh, that's a weird coincidence. The thing is, this isn't much of a gimmick. Even if it's the case, I've never gotten the impression Heartless actually have any kind of line of sight. Unless we're talking about sniper wilds, it always feels like it's just proximity. And the instances of enemies already being present in a room as opposed to spawning in when you get close enough are so few and far between, I'm having trouble so much as trying to experiment with this behavior. I'll keep a dangly eye out though. Lastly are the barrel spiders, the pot spider's volatile cousins. These guys have one move: go boom. They'll do it prematurely if you hit them with fire, but do nothing and they'll burst all the same. They're a rare enemy capable of friendly fire, and in groups, their explosions tend to trigger a chain reaction, so they end up not being much worth worrying about. That brings us to the real culprit of getting players hopelessly lost in these convoluted viscera: the treasure. That's what's probably going to lead you astray from the main path, so follow along, this isn't going to be easy. From the start of the maze, take the first wrong turn into room 3 to find a Mega Ether by this wooden blockage. Head back and go along the main route until you reach the upper area of compartment 3, jump across the gap to find an Osmos Gummy, and ignore the door on that side. It leads to a dead end at the bottom of Antechamber 6. Using the barrels in here, you can jump up to these weird platforms. We'll stick to the one over top of the critical path for now. It's got some doggos. That brings us to 42, nearly half of them, and we're rewarded with a bit of mithril, which is always appreciated. There's another by the extra chairs in the dining room, and 2 right here by the end of these drawers in the TV room. Back on track, in the upper section of Recess 2, hop along these half-circle platforms to reach a Megalixir. Head through the green doors until you reach the upper staircase section of Niche 6, and at the bottom of these stairs you'll find... Ooh, these freaking puppies. Okay, puppies 76, 77, and 78 returned home. This is a lie. I turned this charming little zero bed, zero bath inside out, and I swear to you, there were only 2 dogs in that chest. They're both in the TV room. one more by the grandfather clock, and one watching the back door. I thought for sure this was it. Oh, heck me sideways, the inevitable first mistake I would make trying to keep track of 99 little dotted dingoes. But thankfully, I have a file where I've been deliberately avoiding every Dalmatian just in case of an emergency like this. I opened this chest, headed back to the house with naught but those 3 collected, searched high and low, and I am quite certain these 2 sinister sniffers ditched their brother or sister at some point. In a last-ditch effort, I took a look through the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, and luckily for all of us, there are a few pages dedicated to pointing out every single puppy in the house. According to this, to the devs themselves, puppy 78 should be right here. So what does this mean? Are there only actually 98 puppies? Did 78 wander out of their chest and into that of another trio? Time will tell, but Jiminy, your bookkeeping really ain't all it's cracked up to be. Right next to that chest, this door leads to a secluded area of Region 5, which has a blue trinity and a couple treasure chests, but they're guarded by a bizarrely long sequence of enemy spawns. Back at the top of Staircase 6, there are a couple of barrels which are not hostile. You can use one to reach another green platform with another torn page. The far platform over there looks like it might just barely be in reach, but somehow Donald broke the barrel I was using to attempt this, which I didn't even know he could do. Oh, and these barrels have a possibility of dropping potions or ethers, and for the record, this is the first time that's been a thing since the tutorial taught us it could happen. Anyway, once more around the bases to respawn the barrels, and yes, it is possible. A mega elixir for that. Another not nearly as precise jump to this far ledge nets us a mithril, and honestly, don't bother with any of that. Give it like 15 minutes, it's gonna be much easier. The door up here loops back around to Alcove 1, so ignore that and get back on track. Our last detour is in the upper layer of Sectional 5, where we can once again use a non-hostile barrel to reach these platforms, gain another mithril, and this extremely peculiar instance of a treasure chest sitting atop a barrel. This makes it, as far as I'm aware, the only chest in the game we can possibly move, apart from some that move straight down, and it contains some more Dalmatians. One on the rug in the piano room, one I had to check and double check and triple check for the little rascal, under the table by the TV. And over by the grape fermentations, the vocation of this sequestration on the Dalmatian plantation is to express adoration for the carnation situation. All on the PlayStation 2. From that same barrel-chested ledge, you can head either to compartment 3 or 6. 6 just drops you in the dead end opposite the staircase, but 3 brings us back to one of those green platforms, where we can find a flare gummy. Take a breath, guys. That was everything. Along the way, we'll get this scene.
Why do you still care about that boy? He has all but deserted you for the Keyblade and his new companions, after all.
I don't care about him. I was just messing with him a little.
Oh, really? Of course you will. Beware the darkness in your heart. The heartless prey upon it.
Mind your own business.
There is so much to read between the lines there, and I especially want to give it up for Riku's voice actor, David Gallagher, for conveying every complex emotion running through Riku's heart right now. It's clear he's trying, in a misguided way, to get through to Sora, to get their goals to realign. Forget the Keyblade and the King's Lackey, how dare you ask me if I've found Kairi? Are you even looking? And yet, with every move he makes deeper into Maleficent's thrall, he has to essentially outgrow Sora. Riku's story at large has been all about the childlike desire to grow up. Leave home, leave his parents, make his own decisions, and fight his own fights. In doing so, he's found himself in a very adult world. Everything is tit for tat, and just one of the many deals he's made is to let go of someone as childish as Sora in order to convince them he's matured. These glowing doorways give me a great opportunity to talk about something I've had in the chamber for a while. The colors of the pause menu. Yep. Really, these scan lines making up the background are interesting. They're generally gonna fall beneath the notice of anyone just playing the game, but hang about, take a second look, and you'll see that they change color to suit the environment. In essence, it's identifying whatever color is at the center of the screen and picking a color to match. I've heard it said in a few places that the color it chooses is the color that's at the center of the screen, but that's not quite true. Instead, it seems to be a complex algorithm that can either approximate the color or select one which complements it. For example, most greens and reds seem to make it by unaltered, but most blues and oranges seem to be reversed. And these colors are especially interesting because it shows us that this algorithm takes into account both textures and lighting when choosing. Fascinating. And a word about this place's aesthetics. They are ooey gooey. The squelchy sound effects of the footsteps, if it's not your cup of tea, I get it, but the way all these blotches pulsate or change color is a lot of fun. I like it more than the pink fleshy aesthetic Ocarina of Time went with. It also adds to the sameness of the maze, but I'm willing to bet that was very much the point. The best part, however, without question, is the music. Like almost every song in this game, A Very Small Wish comes to us courtesy of Yoko Shimomura. To my mind, nothing less than the greatest composer in the industry, and the work she did for this series is a huge part of why I say that. The environmental themes for each world have been nothing short of excellent, flawlessly capturing the mood and culture of each realm, and every single one is a relentless earworm. But in a step beyond that, every world has its own combat theme too. You never get that in an RPG. That's such an insane level of effort that pushes the individuality of the locales that much further. I want to draw special attention to Hand in Hand, the battle theme for Traverse Town. It's urgent but triumphant. A great way to capture that feeling of finding your bearings, starting to get the hang of wielding the Keyblade, battling alongside Honest Don and Giddy for the first time. It just hypes you up.
Riku! What's the matter with you? What are you thinking? Don't you realize what you're doing?
I was about to ask you the same thing, Sora. You only seem interested in running around and showing off that Keyblade these days. Do you even want to save Kairi?
I do.
Let's talk about rivals. Regardless of the medium, rivals are one of the most important tropes in storytelling. They tend to fall all over the place on the antagonistic spectrum, but their role is almost always the same: to push the main character further, the driving force that spurs them to be greater than they thought they could be. Better yet, to keep moving that goalpost, to keep the competitive fires burning even after the main character surpasses them. This archetype is probably most famous in shonen anime like Dragon Ball Z, but I would argue it never works better than it does within a video game. As is so often the case, the extra degree of immersion that comes from putting you in control during their competitions lets you feel the main character's frustration, that need to improve, that sensation of, even though I beat him, I'm still behind. Smell your own ass, Blue, that literally shouldn't even be possible. And yet, there's something about Riku that feels a cut above the rest. I've never heard it put more eloquently than the Gaming Brit did in his review of this game.
Calling Riku Sora's friend/rival isn't the full story though. If anything, starting Kingdom Hearts feels like you just started playing as the comedy sidekick of the real hero. Riku is self-assured, strong, cheeky, ambitious, and ready for action. A more typical hero figure.
Sora's a little goofball, and Riku's right. Every level he gets so caught up in making new friends with everyone who flags him down that he can't help but put Riku and Kairi lower on his list of priorities. Though it may be the dark path, Riku's methods have clearly been more productive than Sora's in what was ostensibly the main goal from the outset. The question now is, their paths have become so diverged, can things ever go back to the way they were?
You up for this?
No problem. Let's do it.
We fulfill the boys' fantasy from that flashback. They venture into the cave and together take on the beast inside. Parasite Cage. Narratively, I think I would have preferred a much tougher fight to exemplify the power these boys wield together. Though maybe, with it being so easy, that's what they were going for. Let's not put the puppet before the strings here. Parasite Cage isn't the weakest boss we've fought, but he does have one special property none have had since frickin' Darkseid. He cannot move from his spot. However, even Darkseid's arena was small enough that he could always hit you. Parasite Cage's noodly little arms can't reach you unless you're in this sunken area around him. If you do get in range though, his swiping attacks can be pretty threatening. He doesn't stagger much and doesn't leave much time between attacks to strike and retreat. Unless you have tons of magic and an extra supply of ethers, you're gonna have to resort to close combat. The reason for that is yet another mechanic we haven't touched on yet: damage caps. Every boss in this game has a maximum amount of damage that can be done to it with a single attack. It's possible every enemy has a cap, but for many of them it would seem it exceeds their HP. You may have noticed while getting here that every large body in our way could survive all our supercharged new spells. Despite the damage calculation there measuring out to nearly 200 damage, they can only ever take a maximum of 145. Parasite Cage, like most bosses, has a much lower cap of 15. Pretty much no matter what you throw at him, you'll be dealing the maximum amount of damage. This guarantees every boss will at least feel tough no matter how high leveled we are. Credit to Nick McSlighton in my Discord server for doing the testing necessary to determine the damage caps of just about everything in the game. It'll be incorporated whenever it's relevant going forwards. This is where our newest summon, Genie, really comes in handy. He is practically the opposite of Simba. Hey, wait a minute, why's he got his cuffs back on his wrists? I thought he was free. When using his special attack, Showtime, he will unleash a bunch, it's really hard to count, of random magic spells on his target. Included in his repertoire is Thunder, Gravity, and 3 spells we can't learn. Stun Shot, which as the name indicates, can inflict stun, Continuous Shot, and Blowaway Shot. The damage for these are calculated similarly to Thunder and are all based on RMP. He can also cast a spell called Stop, but just ignore that for now. In the meantime, the hail of magic he can bring on these foes is downright ferocious. I'm confident no other use of RMP will take quite as much of a bite out of any given boss's health bar, at least not for a while. You don't need to worry about being picky either. While Sora can't use the same summon twice in one fight, he can still use any summon he hasn't called yet. Of course, due to damage caps, Simba isn't much of a boss killer, but it's still worth keeping in mind. Of course, that strict limitation does mean we're back at square one. How do we safely attack this guy without magic? Oh yeah, Riku's here. Riku is a fully fledged combatant, capable of dealing damage, initiating counterattacks, and even healing himself. Since his HP can never drop below its maximum, that's just for the aesthetic, and arguably for the narrative punch that even though he's fighting alongside you, he'll never spare you one of his items. In terms of stats, he is considered a party member, with 50 HP, 0 MP, 20 strength, and 17 defense. So he's beefed up just as much as we have since the beginning of the game. As always, thanks to Samuel Camel for being my man on the inside of this game's code. Riku will run around chipping away for the entire fight. Behaviorally, apart from the potion, he is nearly identical to his original duel. He even has the exact same retaliation counter and kickback attack, which feels so good to see him use on something other than me. So I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Let Riku aggro the boss's arm attacks, jump in for a combo, retreat, and repeat. If you're feeling especially patient, Riku can do basically the whole fight for you. Have yourself a little bathroom break while he goes to town. Like any party member, he can't land the finishing blow, but give him about 10 minutes and then jump in and steal the glory. Parasite Cage's design may have been an homage to an archetypically similar creature from Final Fantasy IX. Shout out to Nightspark43 for pointing out the parallels. This is Prison Cage, who holds the Pinocchio-esque Vivi hostage throughout its fight. With the battle over, this room, the bowels, has nothing left for us, but the door we came in through remains sealed, and with the music completely absent, there's no better place to admire the squelchy footstep sounds.
Pinocchio! Pinocchio! Please, give me back my son!
Sorry, old man. I have some unfinished business with this puppet.
He's no puppet. Pinocchio is my little boy.
He is unusual. Not many puppets have hearts. I'm not sure, but maybe he can help someone who's lost theirs.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about Kairi?
What do you care about her?
The triumph of finally getting to fight alongside Riku is absolutely stolen from us when we see how far he's really fallen from the light. We're left to imagine what fate has befallen Kairi, but we see Riku clearly doesn't care who he has to hurt to help her. Monstro's mouth has changed significantly. Not only has the water level fallen, but a number of new treasures and trinities have appeared. Most importantly, the chest next to Geppetto contains high jump. Once again, putting to one side how we can put something like that in a chest, equipping this to the party will absolutely spoil you for all future runs. Platforming feels so much better with this significant upgrade. It's absolutely night and day. The mouth is the perfect place to get to grips with it. So many treasures in previously unreachable ledges. Before the water level fell, there were a couple of boxes on this furthest piling that served as extra insurance against us reaching this chest. A bit overkill, honestly. I have no idea how you'd reach this ledge with the normal jump, but the devs were clearly aware of how far Sora could reach with his Keyblade. I want you guys to try and keep in mind why the devs might have wanted to ensure this chest stay out of reach. It contains the Water Gleam, which you may be able to guess the purpose of, but we're gonna keep it in our back pocket for a while yet. The last chest in here contains yet more pups. Dang, Monstro, do you ever eat, like, fish? For passing the halfway point and saving 51 puppies, we get another torn page and some more mithril. You ever wonder where the Dalmatians get all this stuff? I guess they're just odds and ends they've gathered after being scattered to the stars. There's one in the middle of the living room floor, one off in the back corner, and a second pup has joined the first under the TV room table. This house is really starting to feel lively. God, that feels good. A green trinity has appeared on the roof of Geppetto's ship, one of the better hidden ones in the game, but it's just a mithril shard, so nothing you'll be desperate for missing out on. Jeppy himself has a new round of dialogue. I wouldn't say any of it's quite as interesting or helpful as his green monster intel, but I am glad it's been updated at all. As you've probably picked up, I like when NPCs react to things changing. Before we give chase to Riku on the upper path, let's head back into the lower intestines. With our newfound mad hops, they have become infinitely more navigable. We can now reach the entirety of every chamber regardless of which doors we come in through. Obviously this makes reaching every treasure throughout something of a breeze, but as I showed, it is possible to get all of them early, which I find all the more gratifying. The only place we still have to work at reaching is this extremely high ledge in Auditorium 3, but it doesn't lead us to anything new, just the top of Bay 6. We can also get straight back to the bowel ridiculously fast, hopping up to get from 2 to 5 and then heading straight to 4. As is so often the case with boss arenas, this place has been repopulated with some fun new enemy spawns. In this case, barrel spiders and large bodies that, for whatever reason, spawn from the ceiling. I don't know what they were going for with that, but gosh darn it, it's charming. I'm choosing not to question why Monstro's bowel has a valve that opens to the mouth, okay? Monstro's anatomy is on another level. One last strange thing. No one seems to know what's up with these wooden blockages. They can never be removed, they seem to correspond to each other. I guess they must have been added late in development, though I can't tell if that was to make Monstro more or less confusing to get through. Onward to the throat! The last trinity we can get on this visit is hanging out right here, and if you're a real lucky duck, you may encounter a new variety of Heartless, rare truffles. These guys are completely non-aggressive, and just want to play a little game of keepy-uppy. Problem is, I suck at that game, and this area's tight quarters are doing me no favors. Rare Truffles, I love ya, but I think I gotta table you guys until you show up in a bit more of an open area. For the love of Neptune, why does your throat go up?
Hey! Let Pinocchio go, Riku!
A puppet that's lost its heart to the heartless. Maybe it holds the key to helping Kairi. How about it, Sora? Let's join forces to save her. We can do it together. What? You'd rather fight me? Over a puppet that has no heart?
Heart or no heart, at least he still has a conscience.
Conscience?
You might not hear it, but right now it's loud and clear. And it's telling me you're on the wrong side!
Then you leave me no choice.
Ooh, the thematic cohesion is delightful. Monstro, of course, challenges our navigational skills more than any other world, and using Pinocchio, a story about navigating the tricky differences between right and wrong, what feels good and what is good, all while using our main characters to mirror that allegory to show the differences in their moral compasses. Ooh, that's my jam.
Jiminy, I'm not gonna make it. Oh, I guess I'm okay.
That interaction is so dang cute, I can't even.
Huh?
Parasite Cage's manager has informed me he was really upset at how easy I made him out to be in that last fight, but he took the criticism to heart, or stomach, and has made some changes. Well, 900 HP is the highest of any foe we've yet come across, and he has a brand new ranged attack that ensures he can now hit you no matter how far you get from him. It has a poison damage over time effect too, which can certainly be scary. The arena itself is much more threatening. This neon floor will react with a hitbox when you step on it. It reacts slowly enough that you can run around on it, but quickly enough that you can't stop to do anything else. He's also got a new physical attack that's much more powerful and has a nasty hitbox. And to top it off, no Riku to do the fight for us this time. I'll give him this, you certainly can't use any of the same strategies we used to beat him the first time, but is he significantly harder? No, he's not. Our tactic this round is going to be to stick behind him. Since he's still rooted to the spot, he'll be forced to slowly turn to face us if he wants to do damage. Now he is immune to all damage from behind, so that goes both ways, but the cage cannot attack while he's rotating, so that's our opportunity. Sneak out under his armpit for a combo, dodge on back before he can return fire, ad infinitum. He'll throw his own little variation into the mix every so often, as he can now be stunned after receiving enough hits. He'll hang his big dark lump of a uvula out for you, and you're free to really let loose on it. Physical attacks will cause it to drop health orbs, and magical attacks will yield magic orbs. This is the time to unload with fire. Genie too if the goofballs are still alive, and that's gonna wear him down in just a few cycles. Honestly, this surprised me. I always try to make sure my tactics are applicable on a level 1 run just in case people are using this as a guide, and I've often heard this guy was especially difficult, but he's one of the few I managed to take down on my first try.
Riku! Riku, where are you?
Oh, just chilling in the void. You know him.
So, Kairi's like a lifeless puppet now?
Precisely.
And her heart was...
Taken by the Heartless, no doubt.
Tell me, what can I do?
There are 7 maidens of the purest heart. We call them the Princesses of Heart. Gather them together, and a door will open to the heart of all worlds.
Now that's a juicy tidbit. 7 Princesses of Heart. Speaking as someone who's played this game more times than doctors recommend, it surprised me that term wasn't dropped earlier. The headcount we can be sure of right now is Snow White, Alice, and Jasmine. If you're an especially clever cookie, you may have already put together that we've already seen a number of other famous Disney princesses who probably fit the bill. Or rather, the bell, but a typical player may have forgotten the finer details of that wacky dream sequence this far into the game.
Within lies untold wisdom. There you will surely find a way to recover Kairi's heart. Now, I'll grant you a marvelous gift. The power to control the Heartless.
It comes with ominous music, so you know it's the good stuff.
Soon, Kairi. Soon.
So somehow defeating the parasite in Monstro's tum created, like, ulcers, stomach acid everywhere, and somehow this has triggered a sneeze. Okay, look, I get why they did this, it's a reference to how they escaped Monstro in the movie, but this Physeter's internal workings were designed to annoy me specifically. A surprisingly short world, all things considered. It's a good thing there's a bewildering amount of other junk to go over now that we've unlocked the high jump, and obtained the power of time? Yeah, just gonna gloss over that. Hey, guys, what have I told you about telling me where to go? Well, this conversation is triggered by unlocking at least one tier of every spell in the game. Fire, Blizzard, Thunder, Cure, Arrow, Gravity, and Stop. And brings up a good talking point. Outside of our literal first fight alongside him, Donald has only ever had access to whatever spells Sora does. He taught us Fire, but despite his role as an expert mage, he seems to be learning alongside us. Except that he whipped out a Thunder back in his first scene, which would lead me to believe Donald's just been holding back. Another interpretation is that he's the one teaching us our spells off-screen. I like this headcanon quite a bit. Outside learning Blizzard from the Cheshire Cat and Thunder from Phil, every time we've learned a spell was after beating a boss. I can imagine Donald turning to Sora and saying,
Well, Sora, I can't get you. I can't about to do it with you.
I also theorize that Stop was added into Sora's kit latest in development, as it's the only one that doesn't seem super congruous in where we learn it. Since we're going with Final Fantasy spells, I would have thought beating Parasite Cage would grant us Bio or something. But I am glad we got Stop because it's weird. It feels more like something you'd get in a Platinum Spectacle fighter than in an RPG. It basically lets Sora pull off the anime slash. You know the one that...
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
But there is a reward we can collect from Merlin for getting so far in our magical training. We'll pick it up in a minute. As you may have come to expect, there are ever so few loose ends to wrap up within Monstro now that we've cleared him. Geppetto's boat is now unoccupied. Apparently he took the fish, but left the fishbowl. I mean, I guess if you had to choose, but I just hope Cleo's okay. Greetings! I have come to seek an audience with the Council of the Rotund. This encounter sucks, actually. Not because of any particular enemy, but because you can't freaking leave as long as your menu's read. And there's like 7 large bodies and a bunch of air soldiers. If you come up here and the room is empty, double back immediately before anything can spawn.
Phoenix, why would I be coming back up here in the first place?
Well, our newest rare Heartless may apparate in this chamber. The Grand Ghost is a perplexing foe. If you're not one for reading Jiminy's journal, or I suppose looking up guides, this thing will confound you. He is immune to all damage and will only respond to all your efforts by showering you with healing items. Nifty, but not the rare synthesis materials we'd expect from a rare Heartless. Take a gander at the journal and we're encouraged to use those items near the ghost. Also, I swear this animation was made to sync up with this song. This is very likely my favorite rare Heartless added to Final Mix. I love how it builds on an earlier established mechanic with the Wonderland flowers, and assuming you rely mostly on the quick select menu for spells, this is just about the only thing that really tests your ability to navigate the command menu under pressure. This is also a classic Final Fantasy reference, dating all the way back to the original, where the White Mage, or healer, had exclusive access to Dia, a spell which dealt a great deal of damage to undead enemies. This evolved through the series until it became something of a staple for undead enemies to take damage when casting healing magic on them, or using an item like a Phoenix Down. And of course an unnatural creature which thrives on death would be weak to life. I love that. This guy is primarily a source of frost stones. Simply defeating him has a chance of dropping one, but every item used on him has its own set of rewards. Here's the full table. You know I like my tables, with a Mega Elixir acting as both a guaranteed one-shot and frost stone. If you run out of items mid-fight, not to worry. This is the first instance where it becomes relevant that new pickups are automatically assigned to your empty inventory. Hit him with any number of options and he may drop something you can use to further wear him down. It's also a neat touch that while magic recovery items don't deal as much damage, they do stun him, which can make spamming other items much easier. As you might expect, grinding this guy's materials isn't so much a matter of finesse or patience, but being far enough in the game that these valuable items are no longer an object. You can probably guess, we're not there yet. That is everything in the whale. Ordinarily, I'd work my way backwards towards Traverstown, but I want what's there first, so we're gonna do a bit of jumping around this time. Since our goal is Merlin's, you would think I'd land there, but instead, we're gonna wander in from the 3rd district because there's something I want to address. At time of writing, the Kingdom Hearts fandom has been a bit of a buzz about some new trivia that's been translated from the Ultimania, and one that's gotten a particular spotlight has to do with the stepping stones leading to Merlin's house. According to the Ultimania, the distance and speed at which these playful stones travel is determined by Sora's movement speed when he approaches them. Now, maybe I've just been burned too many times and I've lost that childlike gleam in my eye that would have once led me to accept what's written at face value, but I'm sorry, this just isn't true. Charitably, I might assume that the slower Sora approaches, the more likely the rocks are to move less dramatically, but if there's any rhyme or reason to it, it's way more complicated than this would lead me to believe. I'm quite confident this is just random. I've taken a look at all these factoids, and I've elected to share only the ones I've personally verified. I get the impression reading some of these that they weren't written by someone intimately familiar with the code, just someone paying a lot of attention to all the little details, not unlike yours truly. I wouldn't feel too bad about not trusting them either, because one of these fun and interesting bits of trivia is take a close look at Selphie's texture work from the front while she's sitting down. You might find something new, you sick bastard. What is wrong with you? Merlin will give us the Spellbinder keychain for picking up all the tier 1 magic, the first Keyblade to increase our MP, and you already know how I feel about that. I don't think it's a stretch to say, if this isn't the best mid-game Keyblade, it's certainly the most popular. Especially in a level 1 challenge where magic is king and physical attacks are starting to serve little purpose but for the MP charge they yield, Spellbinder is your best friend. The design is great too. Love the orrery aesthetic for the teeth, the cool curvy crossguard, even the name is awesome. Spellbinder being a play on how it leaves its target spellbound, but the keychain itself is literally a spellbook. A binder for spells. Top tier for sure, except for the sound design. I mentioned this back in the tutorial, every single weapon has completely unique sound effects for everything you can do with them. I haven't stopped appreciating that degree of polish, but some of them don't exactly land for me. They also all have unique particle effects, and that does remain a win for the Spellbinder. Heck yeah, I am an arcane god. Decided to check back in with Hubert, Dubert, and Lubert and ran into a very bizarre glitch. The fan is trying to take the ceiling into orbit. It usually does this. What the heck is going on? I would love to tell you how I triggered this, but all I did was walk in here. The boys have nothing new, but I'm glad I checked so we could bask in this RPM. As long as I'm here, Bartholomew Rose in the comments took a crack at this mystery note on the counter, and deciphered at least a couple words. This stretch in the middle reads, Osama wa o genki desu ka, which roughly translates to, how is the king? Which in turn would make this a letter the boys were probably writing to Donald. That was well worth the wait. Thank you, Bartholomew Rose. On a similar note, I made an absolute otaku ass out of myself on this French cafe sign. At least a dozen of you let me know, when a sign like this ends in ya, that's just shorthand for restaurant or store. I am literally this Tumblr post sometimes. Kyle Jones was the first to point out my error, but I appreciate everyone who keeps my ego in check. There's more in town, but I want to use it to close out the Monstro section, so let's head back out to space. Agrabah has that ledge in the silent chamber that leads to the upper section of the hidden room. Touch the stone there, and we'll get an even hiddener part of the hidden room containing puppies and a Haste 2 gummy. That second one is an ultra mega booster for our ship, allowing for short bursts of absolutely obscene speeds. And our newest pupper trio is all hanging out by the fireplace. 2 in front of it and 1 behind the table. I imagine they probably got pretty cold in that damp dark room. I'd light the fireplace for them, but magic is blocked in here. There are a few more treats in town, a mithril across from Aladdin's house, and high up in the palace gates are yet 3 more doggerinos, in addition to a chest we still can't reach despite our vastly improved thigh muscles. Another pup has hopped up on the windowsill behind the parents, 1 on the table by the door, and another on the couch in the living room. I feel we've gotten like twice as many puppies in this section than any other world. Hey, wait a minute, hey, whoa, that's puppy 78! Well, that didn't take long at all. Just to be thorough, I went and double-checked on my empty Dalmatian house file, and yep, puppies 52, 53, and 54 returned home. Let's check in on them, and that amounts to 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm glad to have that resolved at least. I would say it still begs the question of how this happens to begin with, but it's not hard to imagine. Whatever poor sap was in charge of all this probably just lost track of one at some point. All I can hope is that it doesn't happen again. Deep Jungle is next. We're heading to the treehouse to see if we can get those frozen white mushrooms to spawn again. It so happens this is the emote for stop, but these guys are unique. We're not out to grab a stop arts, instead, these 3 are playing hide and seek and will each disappear after only 1 spell. Some of these hiding places are a little nutty, but thankfully, there doesn't seem to be a time limit. Once you've stopped all 3, a pink Yggralith will appear in the middle of the house. This friendly mushroom is rather difficult to get anything from. As hinted at by her lackeys, her game revolves around stop. She won't flinch if you hit her while she's dancing, and interestingly, she has the lowest MP recovery stat of anything we fought past the tutorial. But once she's stopped, the clock, ironically, starts ticking. The challenge is to land as many hits as possible over the course of a single stop. Hits from summons don't count, and hits from Dob and Gove actually count negatively. The minimum number of hits required to get a Serenity power is 40. Stop's duration is calculated using our MP stat. Nothing funky, just seconds equals max MP plus 2. With 12 seconds and the abilities we have access to now, we are nowhere close to capable of landing nearly 4 hits a second. We'll have to simply look out for other tools as we go. In the meantime, we can appreciate those moves. I'd be willing to bet a lot, if not all of these are based on some Japanese pop idol. I've definitely seen Hatsune Miku perform this motion somewhere before, but I'm comfortable leaving that particular rabbit hole undoven today. I don't think there is intended to be anything new in Wonderland. We can reach the top of the hedges in the courtyard, but since we were so thorough in our explorations on our first visit, there's nothing left up here. What is here is this funky jump we can make in the Lotus Forest to reach this upper area. The chest contains an orichalcum, and the door leads to the upper hedges of the Tea Party Garden. This entryway has an extremely obscure detail associated with it. If you were to somehow manage to reach it on your first visit to the world before turning in any evidence to the Queen of Hearts, and thereby access the garden before the rock outside it has been moved, this extremely subtle shrubbery will be hanging out in front of the door leading to the bazaar room ceiling, complete with its own message on screen. This means it was expected that players might somehow sequence break this jump, though I'm not sure a legitimate means of doing that has yet been found. Up here we can get another flare gummy and yet more puppies. This is the frickin' puppy parade. Of course Pongo and Perdita would be showering us with gifts. We've brought back like half their charges in the last 15 minutes alone. Perhaps as a consequence of being trapped in a room with the Mad Hatter and the March Hare, these 3 are all music lovers, all hanging around the piano. And I think those are the last ones until we find a new world. Olympus is now hosting the Pegasus Cup, named for a character from the film who unfortunately doesn't get to appear in this game apart from his picture on the bracket over there. This is much of what we've come to expect from this Coliseum. 9 rounds consisting of just about every common Heartless we've yet faced. Only now with this slick dusk aesthetic. It's a small change, but considering how many bouts we've fought in this exact arena already, any amount of variation is appreciated. The 4th seed is the most interesting, consisting of 3 black fungi. Obviously their gimmick of doling out rewards when beaten with a finisher isn't a factor here, so we can treat them like any other Heartless for now, but if you remember something about the Fill Cup, you'll already realize these guys might be an issue. Other than that, you know the drill. Launch a blizzard down the center of each formation to obliterate most of the competition, and you should get to the boss no problem. However, that boss is a rematch against our old pal Leon, now backed up by the great ninja Yuffie. This fight calls upon a skill set we haven't had to employ since that 3-on-1 match on the beach. These two are relentless together. Leon wasn't saving his ego when he said he went easy on us. He is now packing twice the attacks and quintuple the HP. I'd say he's still easier than Cloud, but not when you add Yuffie into the mix. Her shuriken attacks are ceaseless, rapidly homing in on you one after the other. She also has the ability to heal herself and Leon. This was toned down in Final Mix. It used to be a flat 150 health, now it's 96. That specific number is because the internal calculation for it takes her strength stat and adds 75, which actually will come into play later. But even though the number's reduced, the possibility of her getting this off in conjunction with her lower HP makes her the clear first priority. Leon's not super fast, but there's no perfect means of evading him while focusing on Yuffie. If you have the MP to spare, I recommend using Sonic Blade to make use of its stun. It's a bit tricky because some genius mapped limits and commanding the doofus's focus to the same button, so what you gotta do is target Leon, use Sonic Blade, and halfway through, switch targets to Yuffie. Do it right, and you'll be free to let loose on her for a long time. Without backup, she's not terribly threatening. Her shurikens are easy to bat back at her, leaving her stunned, and she doesn't have much of anything in the way of close-ranged combat. The worst thing she can do is evade you long enough for Leon to wake back up. She does have a desperation attack she can start using when she's taken a bit of punishment. All Creation is named for her ultimate limit break from Final Fantasy VII. Thankfully, it's not the same apocalyptic black hole death ray as its namesake. Instead, it just seems to be a reference to the size of the shuriken she wielded in that game. This one persists for way longer and can't be deflected, so you kind of just have to run away from it until she's done. What's really scary is if she decides to do it twice in a row. Oh, Jesus. It's not uncommon that you'll finish her off before she even pulls that out though. And then it's just Leon. It's almost a shame this whole tournament is optional, because this is such a great narrative beat, and it saddens me that so many players probably missed out on it. Leon respecting Sora enough to stop holding back, and we've grown enough that we can handle it. His new moves include this spin attack. He can't be staggered out of it, so whenever you hear this voice line, "Get this!" that's your cue to dodge roll away. Rough Divide is basically a Super Smash Bros. Up special. It's not easy to block, but its thin hitbox makes it very simple to dodge to the side, and especially easy to punish with a combo. His last new trick, his own desperation move, is Fighting Spirit. He'll do a little Thundercats home maneuver, and then for the next, 5 full minutes, you have this to deal with. This one's a reference to his ultimate weapon in Final Fantasy VIII, Lionheart, which is, and let's not mince words here, the coolest shit. They went one step further and gave it full-on lightsaber noises in this game.
Yup! It's over!
It's not worth waiting out the aggressively long timer, just wait for the gaps in his attack pattern, which are essentially the same as they were in Traverse Town. Deflecting his Firaga spell will stun him, and anytime he comes in from the air, you can get a full combo no issue. Sorry Leon, this time you're really gonna... I'd finish that sentence, but I have no idea what Sora was actually gonna say to Leon back there.
Now you're gonna... We're the champs!
Another trophy to show off in the lobby. I like this one's aesthetics, more plaque than trophy, but it looks like it's got a fleur-de-lis on it, which doesn't strike me as all that Greek. Maybe it's to indicate that Yuffie and Leon hailed from Traverse Town, but I'm not quite sure. As we head in again to try our hand at the solo challenge, we can test out the new limit we just unlocked, Strike Raid. It's more powerful than Sonic Blade, costing the same amount and consisting of the same number of hits, but doesn't have the ability to stun. While every limit has its niche, Strike Raid is probably the most generally useful because it provides Sora with a preposterously long period of invincibility. He can just sit there, chucking his weapon in caveman mode, and nothing can stop him. Lore-wise, I like to imagine he saw Yuffie throwing her weapons around, and seeing Leon reminded him of how he could summon the Keyblade back to his hand, and came up with this brilliant technique. Yeah, you better be scared. The thing of it is, it's not reasonable to have more than one limit equipped at once. The game will try really hard to offer you whichever one it thinks is best in the moment, typically offering Strike Raid if you're targeting an aerial target and Sonic Blade on a grounded one, but this is far from reliable. Now, without our Disney dads to draw some fire from us, Leon and Yuffie are a much tougher combo. If you're struggling, one quick trick that may even the odds is to turn on EXP0. Yes, really. You see, there are a couple of extra effects built into this ability designed to make a level 1 challenge more manageable. One of these is a damage cap. Depending on the enemy you're facing, their attacks won't be allowed to deal more than a certain percentage of your health. For most foes, this is 50%, but for Leon and Yuffie, it's a generous 25%. A bit cheeky, maybe even kinda cheating? I don't know. I guess I'll let you guys be the judge. I say if it works, it works. One more orichalcum, but there is something else I want to show in that fight. There's a page within the Ultimania which says it's possible to die within the tournament if you take fatal damage after winning, and that this is easiest with Yuffie's big-ass shuriken. Now to test this, you'd have to beat Leon before Yuffie, which comes with a number of complications. Her significantly lower health, her lower stun duration, her ability to heal Leon. I was desperately breaking out every arrow in my quiver for this one, fully loaded on elixirs, blatantly cheating, and it still wasn't enough. That's when I inadvertently stumbled upon the most foolproof strategy you can employ in this 1v2. Target Yuffie, guard her shurikens, and the instant before it lands, switch targets to Leon. In addition to feeling dang cool, this turns these two into a joke. Interrupt her with a quick spell or attack whenever she starts healing, and you can wear down Leon almost without issue. Is now a good time to mention how utterly incessant some of the boss fight callouts are?
Just give up, it'll be easy. Just give up, it'll be easy. Just give up, it'll be easy. Get me out of here! Help! Get me out of here! Heal! Get me See ya! Aladdin! Get him, you fool!
Seriously guys, tone it back, I feel like I'm playing Bubsy. Now this next part is easily the hardest. We need to get low enough in health to die to her limit attack. We need to get her low enough to die in 1 or 2 hits, and we need her to launch her glowing shuriken, beat her, then take the hit. I am 99.8% sure this isn't actually possible. The shuriken seems to despawn the moment she loses. I have tested this extensively with save states, and I swear, even if the timing is frame perfect, I would have hit that bullseye at some point amid all this. Just to be extremely thorough, I also checked in the original Japanese version, and even though her shuriken persisted after taking her down, Sora seems to become invincible the moment the cup is won. If this is possible, I have to guess the Ultimania is referring to something we won't tackle until later, so this gets a pin in it until then. I wouldn't call it a total loss, at least we got this silly tactic out of it. And on to the time trial. Once again, 3 minutes for all 9 rounds. There's really no better tactic here than spamming as much magic as possible, so I recommend just loading everyone up with ethers. And you're gonna want gravity on your quick select. The black fungi stand to be the biggest leeches on your time, and we're gonna want as much as possible for the final round. As fast as you can, target each of them with a gravity. It's the only thing that can knock off more than 1 hit's worth of HP, and you should be able to finish them all before they can turn to stone. Even with like half my time left, these two can really bring you down to the wire. My strategy was mostly the same, but I ended up falling back on spamming Sonic Blade once Leon broke out the lightsaber, just so I could ignore the big hitboxes. Thankfully, Goofy's inventory is robust enough that he was able to keep me supplied with MP the whole time, but I gotta admit, that did not feel smooth. Who cares, we got a dark matter and we've wrapped up every world but Traverse Town. Back in the synthesis shop, I avoided showing this last time, but we already made enough items from the first batch to unlock the second. All we needed was to craft 3 unique items, not all 6. Unlocking the next tier will require us to make a total of 9 items, so let's see what we got. We're starting to get into the requirements for Mithril, and it's gonna be a long time before we start finding enemies willing to drop that stuff, so don't go nuts making multiples of these. What we have now is all we have to work with. For the moment, our only source of Frost and Thunder gems are white mushrooms, with the Lotus Forest being the easiest place to farm them if you feel inclined to do so. As for farming basically any material, we're far enough in the game, Goofy has probably gotten Lucky Strike as an ability, which increases all drop rates. Sora should have it by now too if you picked up the shield in the opening, so be sure to throw those on before you settle into the grind. Okay, I've given it some thought, and I think this emote indicates that it's too bright and they want shade, which you provide with the storm clouds from Thunder. I too would rather be struck by lightning than suffer a sunburn, so I get it. In this batch, blazing stones are the only roadblock we can't overcome right now, but that was still enough to unlock the 3rd round of recipes. Just like last time, I am gonna leave those until after the next world though, since we clearly can't make most of them right now anyway. It kinda bothers me how these recipes all unlock with no ceremony. I'll be honest, the main reason I didn't mention the tier 2 items last time we visited is because I straight up didn't notice they'd been unlocked while I was in the menu. The rune Stone Armlet is probably our best get from that round, being a direct upgrade to our Magic Armlet. The Golem Chain and Anglebangel have better stats than some of the best accessories we've found so far, so we're really starting to get some nice returns on investment from this system. Our last stop of the day is right outside. A new house has popped up in the corner of the first district. Is this just how this whole town came to be? Some people showed up with their associated buildings? I suppose that might explain the enigma that is the Gizmo Shop. This house does bear a number of similarities to Geppetto's house in his original film, but one fun difference is this ironwork above the sign. In the movie, it was this somewhat generic cross design, but here it's his fish. Atta girl, Cleo, moving up in the world. If we get up on his roof, we'll find it has some of the same slippery properties as some of the tree roots in Deep Jungle, which is odd, but undeniably fun. Well, it's good to see everyone's okay. Apparently Leon got them this house, which raises a number of questions, namely, where the heck is my house, Squall, you stingy broody buckaroo? Geppetto gives us himself, and if we keep talking to him, he'll hand over Sid, and Yuffie, and Aerith, whoever that is, and Leon. I don't know where you expect me to keep all these people. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to just hand them out like that. Oh, they're Gummi blueprints. All too big for us to try out right now, apart from Geppetto. These are rewards for defeating X amount of Heartless. A typical player wouldn't normally have reached all these goals by now, but what do you expect? This file's got 90 hours on it. All of these designs are charming, largely for the fact that Geppetto himself just fell in love with gummies as a tool for crafting, and made a lot of these ships as a way to honor some of the people who helped him out of a jam. Though they're all recolored and obviously simplified to fit within the strict gummy grid, they each look like significant vehicles from their source material. Geppetto's looks like the Pleasure Island Ferry, Sid's looks like the Highwind airship from Final Fantasy VII, Leon's like the Ragnarok from 8, Yuffie's got kind of a truck aesthetic. She does drive a truck in 7, but it doesn't have this crane arm the blueprint seems to have, so I'm not too sure. And maybe it's the colors, but to me, Aerith looks most like the Fahrenheit from Final Fantasy X. A shout out to my boy Mythology and Gaming for pointing this out to me. All of these color schemes are emblematic of their respective characters' ultimate weapons. We also have Cactuar. He's chillin'. The little details in here are as intricate as you might expect. The sign in the corner says file. Okay. Cleo's all good, brand new bowl too, that's what we're really looking for. You can see a design for a ship on this wall which looks like it may have been the basis for the Geppetto blueprint, and this much simpler blueprint in front of it bears a striking resemblance to the early gummy ship design seen both in the Kingdom Hearts design doc and some concept art in the back of the Ultimania. Could be a coincidence, it's a pretty rudimentary design, but that'd be a heck of an Easter egg. Alas, all these clocks are perfectly matched at 12, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. There is one last blueprint we can get in this house, and all we have to do is enter and exit 30 times. I have no idea what they were thinking. Yes, Geppetto is basically something we can routinely check in on as we defeat ever-mounting numbers of Heartless, but we are over halfway through this game already. Even if we came and checked in 5 times per remaining world, we still wouldn't hit this goal. While I'm at that tedious work, I'll go over the contents of this chest. The Wishing Star is one of the more unique keychains in this game. I love a good wooden clockwork aesthetic, but something about the color choices here don't land. The main shaft also looks overly simple and kind of flimsy. I think we should have gotten gears going the whole length of it, but I digress. Let's take a look at the stats. Its critical rate is where it's at. ×5 is functionally a guaranteed critical hit whenever one is possible. Every finisher, every hit of Sonic Blade and Strike Raids, certain summon attacks, and plenty we have yet to see. This is also the first Keyblade we can use which boasts a critical bonus. Basically a multiplier on damage dealt with a critical hit. And that is a big deal. If you're running a physical build, Wishing Star is genuinely the best you can do right now, as long as you're not dropping combos. I'm guessing this is just a highly obscure secret for secret's sake, and fair enough, we haven't seen a Chocobo Easter egg since we left Destiny Islands, but seriously, 30 times. But that is it. Monstro completed. Geppetto, Pinocchio, and Cleo all safe and sound. We got to have our big moment of triumph over Leon, and to add to all the catharsis, in the back corner of Geppetto's house, we can find postcard number 10. Thanks for sending all 10 postcards. No more presents. A defense up may seem a touch anticlimactic, but it's the principle. Our first proper side quest undertaken in our adventure's infancy fully completed. This is a special kind of feeling. Everything about this chapter has given us a sensation of starting that downward slope towards the end of our journey. We're certainly not close, but as we've passed the midpoint, everything is changing. Sora's growing more mature, our combat options are becoming truly robust, our strength becoming a threat to be reckoned with, both by our friends and our enemies. Pieces of the story puzzle are starting to fall into place, and perhaps the most literal change, our new and improved jump height. The earliest action we came to grips with, revamped to recontextualize all the levels around us. This is all deliberate stuff, and good golly is it clever. Next stop, we're heading under the sea, something I know a lot of you have been looking forward to, while a lot of others, well, that's for next time. Or for literally right now if you're one of my stellar and fantastic patrons. Use the link in the description to check out my Patreon where the next video is all ready to go, and more importantly, you can join the ever-mounting pile of people to whom I owe my everlasting gratitude, including Amiri the Grey, who can pull off polka dots with stripes, I don't know how she does it. Raven can chill coffee and heat tea with nothing but a stern glare. Hasn't figured out how to do either in reverse yet, though. Rockington is the one directly responsible for controlling all the RGB lights in everyone's computers and streaming setups and stuff, at all times. And Soup, humanity's last resort in 8 out of 10 apocalyptic scenarios. I'd also like to thank Jenku, Chris Bradell, Raisin Bran, The Humble Oscar, Sato de Sable, 10-Beat, Kane Lowwind, Rucksack 358-2, and the frankly monstrous amount of other patrons continuing to offer their love and support. I also want to give a huge shout out to my Uncle Ray for lending his voice to Donald Duck back there. That was fantastic. You guys are my wish come true. Wait, hang on, I just used that one. Thanks to you all, I have no strings, and I'll see you in the next one.